Hi, everybody. This is Tina from Rehatch Designs. Hope everybody's doing well. This is tag number 15. We've got quite a few. Um, we're getting to the point where my basket's full. Today I'm going to be using a cutout, and I'm going to do two of them because I'm going to go ahead and put some dimension on this tag. So I'm going to just fussy cut these out, and there's two, and it goes pretty quickly, not a big deal. I am going to go ahead again and use the foam tape. So now I'm going to just fussy cut these out. And if you're new to this, when you fussy cut, you move your paper, not your scissors. I don't always do that, but I remember the first time I ever fussy cut and like that. I mean, I'd been doing it where I was moving my scissors, and I heard that, and I was like, it was a game changer. So if you're new, move your paper, not your scissors. Okay, so I'm making sure that they kind of line up, kind of trimming them a little bit. Okay, so I've got those two ready. And now I'm going to get, this is beeswax, and I'm going to heat up my iron. And I'm doing this to seal it. Just as kind of a precaution, because I just like for these tags to last, and I do it a lot of times on covers. I didn't do it on a lot of these, but sometimes when I'm doing any kind of mixed media or something, I like to do that because then my focal point is sealed, and if anything gets on it, you can wipe it off easily. And it also gives it kind of a really cool vintage look. So, and I want this to be kind of vintage. Now I'm just getting out my white heavy gesso, and I'm going to kind of prime this card. Since we're just using, this is like a manila folder. It's not like chipboard or whatever. I like to prime them if I'm not putting like just paper on it, just because of the fact you're going to be putting wet things on it, and it won't absorb as much. So now I've just got some vintage music paper out. I mean, you obviously don't have to use vintage, but I like the patina of the paper. And you're not going to see much again. Whenever I do kind of layers, you probably think, why do you even bother doing that layer? Well, you can kind of see it in the end. So the way it works is each layer just kind of peeks through, and it adds to the whole look. So anyway, all I'm using is some matte medium, some Liquitex matte medium to put it down. And the reason I'm using matte medium instead of just glue is matte medium will also seal the tag, and it'll seal the paper, so it won't get overly wet, or the ink won't bleed or anything like that. So you could use any kind of a sealer to do that, any glue sealer like Mod Podge or whatever. But I like using matte medium for that, so because it has a very kind of dull finish. Now I'm going to take my white gesso again, and I'm going to go over my, and I'm doing this like just a very light amount of gesso. I'm not putting a lot on my brush. I was going to kind of scrape it on, but I think I want a little bit more than that to be on there. And I'm just kind of going, I want you to be able to still see the notes behind it, but I want to kind of dull it down a little bit with the white gesso. So I just do that all over to the point that I think it's the way I want it. Okay, now that that's done and dry, I'm going to put some Distress Oxide on my tag. And I basically am just going to go ahead and put it in just different spots and then blend it. And I'm going around the edge because I want to have more concentrated in certain areas. Even if you're going to blend it later, you can put your Distress Oxide down where you want certain colors in certain spots, and then you can blend it from there. And I do that all the time. So I'm kind of putting it all over. Not super thick, but just kind of over the tag. And I think I have worn lipstick and something velvet. I can't remember what the name of it is, but anyway, you can just stop the tape and see, because I show you the lids on anytime I use anything. Anyway, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to put a little bit on both. And then I think I try the pink raspberry, and there's two different ones in ink and one's in oxide, and then there's another. And I honestly end up making a little bit more pink than I wanted to. So, but that's okay because I come back and I fix it. So anyway, I sprayed some water on there to kind of blend what I already put on there. Just because I don't want it to look like I want it to look faded into the other parts. And now I'm going to go ahead, and this is where I put the pink raspberry on there, and it was just a lot. No, maybe that was pink flamingo. I don't know. I'd have to stop the tape and look at it. Y'all can do that if you want. But anyway, it was way more pink than I wanted it. So I kind of let it, go. And the one thing too about these, you don't always know, because sometimes they can turn out great. They dry a lot lighter than when you put them on. So, but the problem that I have with this is that I'm trying to kind of get close to the color of what the little angel has in her dress. So it's turned a little bit too pink. So after I dried it, I decided I'm just going to go back and add some more white gesso. and I'm using my brayer because I don't want it on the same. And my brayer has a little bit of gold paint on it, and that's okay because I'm going to be adding other things to it. In fact, I really like that it added that. At first I was like, oh no, and then I went, wow, I like that. Yeah, I didn't clean my brayer real good last time. Okay, so it did tone it down some, but it's still the wrong color. So, but I'm going to deal with that later. I've decided I'm going to do something later, and you'll see what I do. Okay, so now I'm putting on some texture paste. And again, I showed you the jar. You can always go back and stop it it's Vicki Boutin, and it's really good texture paste. I love it, but it's not cheap. So, but I do use it a lot. So anyway, I'm just using a Tim Holtz stencil that I use all the time. I don't know. When you do a lot of vintage stuff, it's just one that, if you're going to get one, that's the one I would put my money on. So I'm just basically taking a palette knife and, putting the stencil on. Putting the texture paste on. And this isn't a crackle or anything. This is just kind of a gold metallic texture paste. I really love it. It goes on really well. All right, so now I'm going to dry it. And after I do that, I have a little left on my palette knife, and I'm just going to take it and randomly put it on my, when I do this stuff, I don't want perfection. I'm purposely trying not to get that. So, but there's still going to be more layers after this. So anyway, I'm going to make sure that's all dry, which it doesn't take that long for it to dry. But you have to be careful whenever you're drying that stuff, though, because it will bubble. But if it does bubble a little bit, there's not the end of the world, because to me that gives it the not perfect look. I kind of even like it when it chips off a little bit, stuff like that. That's basically what the look I'm going for, really. So anyway, I'm going to completely dry that. Then make sure my tag is dry too, because I don't know if it was 100% dry from all the other stuff. So now I'm going to put some white Distress Oxide or ink, I think. I don't think it's oxide. But I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do, because I do know I have to do something, because even though the tag I think looks really cool, it's just not the color I wanted it. So I'm going to spray a little bit more. And now I've got my little box out. I have a bigger box too, and I should have done it earlier, because the bad thing is it gets all over. Now this color is a lot more peach to it, so it's going to help get it to the color that I want it to. And yes, I sprayed over the gold, but that's okay. I was going to do that anyway. I'm actually going to put more colors on there in a minute. So I don't want it to be like as prominent and perfect. So now I'm going to put some white on there, because I like the color that I put on there, but I want it lighter. So now I'm going to spray a bunch of water. And what the water will do is it'll spread it throughout the tag. But because I have the texture paste on there, it's going to get in little crevices and stuff like that. That's kind of cool. So we're going to do that. And I know it looks like I really messed it up, but it'll turn out okay. Watch. So now I'm just taking a baby wipe and kind of, if there's any big blobs anywhere that I don't want, I'm going to go ahead and pick those up with the baby wipe. So now I'm going to put some Distress Stain on, and this is a metallic stain, and it's kind of a bronzy color, bronzy gold color. I really like it. And what's cool about that is, of course, it reacts to water too, and when I spray it with water, it's going to just kind of go in different spots on the tag and make kind of like little blotches everywhere. And I'm going to go ahead and dry that really good. And see, it looks a lot different dry than it does wet. So I'm really happy with the color now, and I'm very happy with the layers. I think it looks really perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to take some Rub and Buff, and I'm going to go ahead and just go all the way around the edges of my little angel here. And that's to make it pop off the page. You have so much going on with the layers, with the tag and the gold and everything else, that I wanted it to have, to be able to, for you to be able to, focus on the focal point, which is this little angel. I guess it almost looks like a wreath, but anyway, I'm going all the way around it, and this works really good. You have to watch whenever, if you wax anything, it's hard to get things to stick to it, but the Rub and Buff doesn't have any problem doing that. So now I'm just going to take the Rub and Buff, and I'm going to go around the edges a little bit more, and I do it kind of in a haphazard way, because I want it to look, just to kind of look old, like it's chipping off and it's been there a while. And of course, I go in with my brush, and if there's any spots I want to add it to, or my finger, I will do it with my finger. And yes, that gold and the bronze and the other gold from the texture paste are not the same color, and that's a good thing in my book, because if something's aging, it doesn't all age the same color, and it adds to the vintage look. And now I'm taking some vintage photo, and I'm going all the way around the edges over the gold, because I want it to have an aged look. And then I'm going to take it, and I'm going to go with my other brush and go over my tag, and it brings everything all together, blends it all in, makes it look vintage. And so I'm really, really happy with the color and the way that the tag looks. Now I'm just looking at these are from My Porch Prints, and I like these because I cut them out all the time for like um, for titles and things like that. Because a lot of your little black titles and things, they don't really go with this whole vintage shabby look. So this will work. Now this is just a little ticket, but I decided not to use it as a ticket later. You'll see. Now I have this piece of chipboard that I've had for a while, and because I want it to be raised off of the tag a little bit, and if I use the chipboard, then I don't have to put any foam tape, and I really don't want to do that on that. Now I want this to kind of go with the whole tag, so I am taking the texture paste, the gold texture paste, and I am putting it on with a palette knife because I want it to be rough. If I put it with a paintbrush, it would be a lot smoother. It would go on kind of like paint, but I want it to have a rough texture, almost like it's plaster. And I am going to dry that and put that aside to keep drying. I turn my paper over because it's dry on that side. And so now what I'm going to do is just kind of decide really where I want things. And first I'm going to put I do know that I'm going to put the foam tape on, and I'm putting it on the bottom, top of the bottom layer. And it may seem silly why I have these doubled, but it's because from the side you can kind of see the inside the layer, and this is what I was talking about when I did the poinsettia and the other napkin bell thing that I had the already done cutouts. It's just putting layers on there. Now I didn't want to cut anything out on that layer, but you could cut out part of it so you could see the next one. But all you do is make multiple layers. Okay, so now all I'm doing is I am putting glue on my little chipboard piece, and I'm just using glue stick, and that is so that I can put some this gold this foil on here, and when I put the glue stick on there, I'm not waiting for it to dry all the way because I actually don't want all of that on there. I'm trying to take a lot of it off because I want it to look like an old chipped kind of piece. And if you take a lot of it off, then you're going to see the texture paste gold underneath it. And then what I also do is I add the rub and buff, and I'll use it more in a kind of a vintage finish. And I'll take that. I'm going to go around the edges of the chipboard, because it's kind of gray. And then I'm also going to put some on. I'm not covering the whole thing on the chipboard, but just doing enough to where you can see the differences in the different golds. And it does really, when you're up close to the tag, you can really see all those layers. I know it seems like a lot sometimes. I think people think, well, why are you doing? Because the details are what brings it up a notch, I think. I always think the details is what sets your work aside, and I enjoy doing those details. For some people, it may not seem worth it, but for me, I just enjoy it. Now I'm just pouncing my my piece of chipboard before I put the words on there, because I want it to be a little bit more vintage looking, even more so than it is. And I actually added some more to my tag. And now I'm going to take some walnut stain, and I'm going to use a makeup sponge because I can actually get in there better. And I'm doing the very edge of my lady or my angel, and then I'm going to do the very edge of my tag. And I do that a lot when I'm trying to make something vintage. I'll use vintage photo, and then I'll come back with walnut stain, and I don't put as much on or as wide on. I just put it on the very edge, and I really, really like that look. Walnut stain is just darker than vintage photo, but it's still kind of brown. It's just a darker brown. And so I think I love that effect. I think it looks really good most of the time. And I had put some vintage photo around the word. Now I'm just gluing it on. I'm using my 3-in-1 because anytime you're doing something textured, when you glue it on, you want to make sure you have a good glue because it's bumpy. It's not a flat surface. So anyway, I'm taking my foam tape off my one layer, and then I'm going to add the other layer. And you got to make sure you got it on there, to where they're positioned right. Okay, so now that I've done that, and I've got it down, just making sure that I've got everything where I want it. And now that I got that down, I'm looking for something to put in the corner. I've got my 15 that I want on top, but I wanted to put some flowers in there. And the ones that I originally picked out, I thought were a little bit too big. And so I found 2 other ones, and they're a little bit smaller poinsettias. And I was thinking about putting the white one in there, but then I changed my mind, and I decided I wanted one that was kind of the same color pink or a little bit darker than what was in the tag. I thought that would be kind of cool. So at first I'm trying to paint the color on there with Distress Oxide, and then I decide that that's going to probably take too long. But that is one way I've done it before. But instead I decide I'm just going to spray it right on, which I've done to flowers before. It works really well. But it turned out the color pretty much that I wanted. It looks darker than it dries here. Like I said, it does dry a lot lighter, but that's pretty much what I wanted. So, and I added a little touch of gold on the edges of the poinsettias. And now I have some little leaves that I've cut out of a Tim Holtz die cut. I always have like a bunch of little greenery whenever I do die cuts and stuff like that. I always do a lot extra and keep it. Anyway, I'm not going to use all of these, but I'm just doing it so if later I need them, I can use them. So now I'm just going to kind of position everything on there and put my flowers on and my number on. And I also have to put my little greenery in there too. Usually what I do is I put the flower on and I make sure there's enough glue that I can tuck the greenery in, because it's too hard to kind of position them all on there. Anyway, I'm gluing down my my little angel, and because that's waxed and also because it's textured, I'm using my 3-in-1 glue, and it grabs really well and it does a really good job. But I am going to put some clips on there. As I said, whenever you're doing the wax seal, it doesn't mean it doesn't glue as easily. It does glue, but not as easily. And plus, as I said, we've got a raised surface, and when you manipulate your tags that much and add so much and dry and all that, they're warped a little bit. So anyway, I'm putting the clips on while it dries, and I'm going to do that on the bottom too, making sure it's positioned where I want it. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put my other elements on there. Oh, and I made sure the flour was dry all the way. So now I'm going to go ahead and just glue those on. making sure that I don't cover up the angel. I'm going to have it just kind of a little bit behind it a little bit. But I think if I had to do it again, I probably would have put the little angel down just a tiny bit more. I mean, just a smidge. But, I don't know that it makes that much difference. So now I'm putting in my pieces of leaf. And as I said, I just tuck them in. And I know I'm going to have to add more glue, but there's a little bit of glue in the middle of the poinsettia. And then I go back and re-glue it after I get it where I want it. And I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and add glue to the rest of the leaf and make sure it's down. All right, now I kind of feel like the rest of it should be dry, but I'm going to go ahead and take those clips off. So now I want to go ahead and put my 15 on. And I am going to put glue on the back of these, even though they're stickers, but I don't trust the stickers. So I am using the 3-in-1 here too, because I want a strong glue. I will have to tell you, putting these numbers on there sometimes causes a problem. It'd be a lot easier if I just put the charms on and didn't put the numbers on all of them. But I just kind of feel like it's supposed to be an advent. So if you were making these at home and doing all of them, you could hang them on a tree and have all of them on there. That would be really pretty, I think, and unique too, right? So, yeah, if I wasn't going to give them away, that would be a fun thing to do. Then you'd have a whole tree just full of these, and they're big, so they would, take up quite a bit of room on a big tree. Now I'm looking for some bling to put on there, and I decide I want red. I just want a little bit at the bottom on the word because I just feel like it needed something. Just a little bit, not a lot. So anyway, I put it there and I glue those down. Again, I never rely on the glue from there. So I think I'm done. And I add a eyelet, and there's some chiffon ribbon that I have that I think matches pretty well. But then I decide, oh, no, I'm not done. So I go back and I have my gold. It's really kind of a very, very light, translucent, kind of gold glitterish glue. And I just kind of go over that. I go over the 2 poinsettias. And partly I do that because I usually always on those paper flowers, I like to seal them because, they last longer. I think it looks better. Anyway, so I did that and it kind of made them a little glittery. And then I decided, well, you know what? If I'm going to do that, I went back and I lightly glittered the little angel's wings and then her dress, which I think it just turned out perfect. It was actually the perfect touch. So I just kind of went over it, and it's, I just stayed on the dress and then on the wings, and I left the rest. And so then I decided I'm going to do a little bit on the Joyous Noel. And that's it. That's all it needs. I actually showed some restraint. So anyway, thanks for joining. And please like and subscribe. And don't forget to comment. And I'll see you guys again next time for tag number 16. Take care.